Someone needs to tell Mark Carney it's time for a little less conversation.
Just these projects alone, when added together, have over $38 billion in cost increase.
Canada is once again being rocked as a $38 billion pipeline scandal erupts, and the fallout is severe. What was presented as progress is now revealing shocking delays, enormous cost overruns, and a system that appears completely broken. And as the pressure builds, all attention turns to Mark Carney because his reaction says it all.
Established momentum. But what if I told you that that same project used to cost hundreds of millions, if not $1 billion less than it will cost to do today when the shovels hit the ground in July? And all that's changed?
Strange how quickly this story turned. One moment, I'm hearing about a major approval, something big, something supposedly worth celebrating, and then suddenly it vanishes from the spotlight. So I start asking the obvious question. How does a $4 billion pipeline approval become something people don't want to discuss just days later? Well, the answer isn't political. It's simply math. What did the delay actually cost? When I step back, the numbers are brutal. Roughly $38 billion in extra costs across major projects. And most of it comes down to one thing: time.
Why do we have to keep talking about getting a deal with the Americans? Or why do we have to keep talking when there are things that Carney could be doing for our economy right now that don't require talking to the Americans, don't require a deal with Donald Trump?
And the messaging around all of that? Energy superpower, jobs created, security for the country, opportunity knocks. All great words. The same words, in fact, that we heard in 2022 when the project was first put up for.
When I look at the Sunrise Pipeline, this is where it becomes even more frustrating. On paper, it sounds like progress, but the reality is that this project isn't new at all. It's been sitting there for years, and the planning, engineering, and consultations were already completed.
On Friday, Ottawa stood up and told Canadians something very interesting about the Enbridge pipeline. Now, one, it's a natural gas pipeline, and they have approved that pipeline. It is a $4 billion pipeline. They want you to believe that that's somehow some type of show of leadership, despite this pipeline being ready to go in 2022. This project didn't just show up last week, did it? It didn't start here in 2026. It didn't even start in 2025. In fact, this project has been in planning, engineering, consultation, and more since actually before it was put up for approval. So that's 2020 and 2021.
By industry standards, it was ready around 2022, with groundwork dating back even earlier. So when the approval finally arrives in 2026, I don't see a breakthrough. I see a delay finally coming to an end.
Wondered why an announcement of a pipeline completion approval could just go from right at the top, today's biggest headline, to nearly a page 12. Well, it's usually the data behind it. See, we need to ask ourselves, how much does
What really stands out to me is that nothing major changed during that time. There was no redesign, no expansion, no added capacity. It's the same pipeline, the same plan, the same result. So naturally, I have to ask, if nothing changed, why did the cost rise so much?
Ottawa stood up and told Canadians something very interesting about the Enbridge pipeline. Now, one, it's a natural gas pipeline, and they have approved that pipeline. It is a $4 billion pipeline.
Back in 2022, this project probably would have cost somewhere between $3.3 and $3.5 billion. That's what the numbers suggest before the delays piled up. Today, it's over $4 billion. And that difference isn't because the project got better, it's because time alone made it more expensive. It's really that simple.
He would reduce the federal deficit. He increased it. He said he would reduce the size of the civil service. He hasn't. He would grow the economy. Not a chance.
Costs evolve over time. There is time value to money. And in Canada, they don't just evolve, they explode because of our inflation rates over the last half decade. Because between 2022 and today, construction
Costs didn't stay flat. They kept climbing, about 5% one year, another 5% the next, then 4%, then 3%. It all adds up.
increase in what it costs today to build this pipeline versus if we
That's how you end up with roughly an 18% increase just from waiting. And when I apply that to a project of this size, the loss becomes real very fast. We're talking about $500 million to $1 billion simply gone. Just a bigger bill for the exact same thing.
Of the project, no expansion, no new scope to the whole thing, just simply the fact that it took from 2022 to 2026 to get approved. And today we're going to
The part that really lands, because that money could have gone somewhere meaningful, like hospitals, infrastructure, or tax relief. Instead, it got burned because things didn't move when they should have. This isn't about projects costing money. It's about projects costing more for absolutely no reason except delay.
construction costs have been rising roughly 5% per year, then another 5%, then 4% in
And this is where I start to see a bigger issue, because it's not just delay, it's what I would personally call a delay tax. Nobody votes for it. It isn't written into any policy, but it's real, and it's incredibly expensive.
Has he done to unleash our economy in response to the tariffs? Nothing. Our inflation is still too high. Food inflation is the worst in the G7. We've got an unemployment rate that is still at 6.7%. By the way, that's not due to Trump and the tariffs. It was there before. Our productivity is low. Our foreign investment, not doing great when compared to the outflow.
Every year, a project sits idle, costs pile on top of each other, materials become more expensive, wages go up, borrowing costs rise, contracts get renegotiated, and legal uncertainty stretches timelines even further. It's not a simple increase, it multiplies over time. I think of it like interest on a loan. The longer you wait, the more it costs. That's exactly what's happening here, just on a much larger scale. And the problem is, this cost doesn't stay hidden inside the project. It spreads. Governments don't quietly absorb billions of dollars. That money shows up somewhere through higher taxes, higher costs, or different policy choices later on.
He's formed another group to talk to. Has his major projects office that he announced with great fanfare last year, has it approved anything new?
So when I hear $4 billion pipeline, I know that's not the full story. A large part of that number is simply the cost of waiting. And once I see it that way, the approval no longer feels like progress. If this were just one project, maybe we could brush it off. Delays happen. But when the same pattern keeps happening, it starts to look like something else entirely. Not a one-time mistake, but a system that keeps producing the exact same outcome. And that's exactly why the headline didn't stay on top for long.
$100 million is hospitals, it's infrastructure, it's tax relief, all burned, gone. On the bonfire. Hope you went camping and can roast marshmallows because you burned all the money, because we couldn't do.
This is where I stop giving the benefit of the doubt. Because if Sunrise were the only case, I'd probably shrug. We all would. Fine. But the more I look, the more I realize this isn't a single mistake. It's a pattern. And it's not a small one either. It's the kind of pattern that makes you stop and think, okay, something is seriously wrong here.